And she said, these are tarot cards and oracle cards. And I said, cool. What do you do with those? And she said, I do readings for people. Have you ever had a tarot reading? And I said, no. And she said, would you like one? And I said, yes. Hey there, my name is Katarina Berry. I'm going to be talking about something that is a very important subject in my life and has become even more so over the past few months. I'm going to be talking about how I started reading tarot cards, how I developed my practice, what books I used to learn, how I transitioned to a more intuitive approach where I was no longer relying so much on books and more learning through this intuitive guidance, how I realized that it has become a career for me, and how I walked away from pursuing business in marketing, from having a business doing marketing for other people, into having a practice, an intuitive practice reading cards for people all over the world. So it's been quite a journey, as you might imagine. But before we get started, a little bit of a side note. I have another video coming up soon that I've been working on and kind of going back and forth on, because it's very difficult to make. It's going to describe this period of my life that I like to call the dark night of the soul. Now, that was a very, very challenging time for me personally on many levels. It lasted about a year, a little over a year. And during that time, I lost someone I loved to an overdose. I was in a severe car accident. I broke my arm in Mexico. I broke my leg walking down the street here in the United States. I lost my job, and I almost lost my mind. So it was a very challenging, very difficult time. But that was kind of the prelude, the background to me discovering tarot. But that's for another video, and as soon as it comes out, I'm gonna make sure to link it here somewhere above my head and in the description below so you can easily find it. Now, without further ado, I'm gonna jump right into the story here. I was walking into my favorite coffee shop that I go to pretty much every day, or did before things changed in 2020, and it was about 3 years ago, and I was just on my way to have a cup of coffee, as I typically do, and as soon as I walked in, there was something very different about this coffee shop. Now, I know it very well. As I said, I'm there if not every day, then as often as I can. I used to do a lot of work out of that coffee shop, working on my marketing campaigns from my little laptop for my clients, and I know the environment and the energy of that place really, really well. But as soon as I walked in that day, something was completely different. There was this excitement, there was this just kind of this bubbly explosion of energy, and I'm like, where's this coming from? And I look around and I saw a lot of people. They were uplifted and smiling, and they were kind of, there was like some kind of commotion happening, and I'm like, okay, what is going on? So I see this woman. She's wearing a pretty short A-line, very feminine, flowery dress. Her hair is nice and curly. She's a redhead. She's so amazing, kind of like very extroverted. She's going around, she's making compliments, she's giving compliments to everyone, she's touching people, she's introducing herself, she's just kind of all over the place, and she's just such a breath of fresh air. And I was like, who is this person? I've never seen her before, and I would have remembered her. I just stand there mesmerized, kind of in line waiting to get my drink, and all of a sudden this woman comes up to me and she's like, hey, I love your dress. And I was wearing something pink. I like pinks, and I think I was wearing like a powder pink dress and a powder pink jacket that was like pretty much the exact same color. She was like, I love how it matches, it's so you, it's such a good color for you. At the time I was blonde too, and she's like, wow, you're so light, you're wearing pink, you're blonde, you're so beautiful. And I was just kind of taken aback by how many compliments she gave me in a span of about 5 seconds. And I was like, who is this amazing woman? Like, where does she come from? And I was like, and that's pretty much exactly where I said, I said, where do you come from? I've never seen you around before. Like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I'm just visiting. I'm just, I'm just doing my thing. I'm traveling. I'm like going from place to place. I'm exploring the local scene, what's cool here in Colombia. I used to live here, but I don't anymore, and so on. So we started talking, and she's like, would you like to, it was pretty packed at the time. She's like, would you like to sit at a table with me? And I looked over at the table she was pointing to, and it had like all these things on it, all these journals and all these books and all these cards. Now, I'm a big journaling fan and have been since I was a little girl, and I still journal a lot. So I was like, you like journaling? She's like, of course I do. And I was like, what are these? And she had all these decks of cards. Now, of course I've heard of tarot cards, I've just never had an experience with them. And she said, these are tarot cards and oracle cards. And I said, cool. What do you do with those? And she said, I do readings for people. Have you ever had a tarot reading? And I said, no. And she said, would you like one? And I said, yes. I just felt it. And usually I've made videos before of how to set boundaries for empath. I'm gonna link that somewhere. I'm an empath. I'm very sensitive to people's energies. I read people very, very well. So when I read someone's energy and it makes me kind of like, I don't know about this person, I never trust them. But her energy was so amazing that I immediately trusted it. It was so warm. I could feel that her intentions were great, and she was just so warm and excited and amazing and beautiful. And at the time I didn't realize, but what really attracted me to her was that she was very much in her feminine energy. And at the time I was really struggling with that. I would dress up feminine, but I would have all these struggles with being in my feminine energy. But again, that's a story for another video. I was just hooked. I was like, yes, please give me a reading. So next thing you know, she's giving me a reading. She lays out all these cards, and I don't remember what exactly the reading was saying, but I remember having this very odd, specific feeling like, I'm gonna be doing this. This is something I'm gonna be doing. This is something I need to learn. This is for me. This is my thing. Like, I'm gonna be good at this. For some reason, I just knew that. And I was like, okay, that's odd. So I decided, I didn't share this with this beautiful woman. Her name is Aretha, by the way. Shout out, Aretha. I love you so much. She encouraged me for years to start a YouTube channel. So I'm definitely gonna send her this video as well. So Aretha, if you're watching this, mwah, I love you so much. That was like a fateful event, that meeting that really changed my life. After the reading, I was like very touched. It was very accurate. It was on point. It was like very deep. Obviously, as an empath, I'm very aware of different energy shifts and psychic phenomena. I've had visions, I've had premonitions, I've had events where I would see something before it would happen. So I was open to connecting to a reading. So even though I've never had it done before, I wasn't skeptical going into it, but I wasn't also like too swayed. I was just very present, and it was really deep. It really touched me, and it was so great. But again, I had this feeling like, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to learn this. So after the reading, I went to visit my parents, and my dad, my mom is kind of on a more traditional spiritual path. She's very Christian. She likes that kind of structure and that religious guidance. But my dad is very different. I'm very similar to my father in the way that we practice our spirituality. So he is very open as well to readings. He's open to working with energy. He's had many ayahuasca ceremonies. He's on the path of becoming a shaman. So when I visited my parents, even though they live separately, they live in the same kind of town. I talked to my dad after that reading 3 years ago, and I said, Dad, something amazing happened. I had this spiritual reading done for me using tarot cards. And I was like, Dad, it's so crazy, but like, even though I loved the reading, the biggest thing was like, I kept having this feeling like, I'm supposed to be doing this. Like, this is for me. This is something I'm going to be good at. This is something I'm going to learn how to do. I need to learn how to do this. And my dad just went like, wait. And I was like, okay, for what? And he's like, just wait. And I'm like, okay. So he walks out. We were sitting on like his balcony. It was pretty dark and it was like a summer night, so pretty warm. We were just hanging out. A few minutes later, he comes back and he hands me this deck of tarot cards. They were in a box that got totally destroyed over the time. But these were the exact cards that he gave me. These are the cards that I do pretty much all of my readings now for my clients. But he handed me this deck of cards, tarot cards, and he goes, "That's for you." And I said, like, what? Like, what? Where did this come from? Did you just like manifest it out of thin air? And he said, no. He said, I've had this for a while now. I bought it maybe a year ago. I've traveled with it. I took it to Peru with me when I did ayahuasca ceremonies. I took it to Ecuador or wherever else he's been. And he said, you know, it's been on these spiritual journeys with me, but I've never opened it and I've never read it. But I knew I had to get it and I knew I had to like keep taking it with me because at some point they would become useful. I just didn't know why. And he said, and I just did it. And here's why. They were for you. So they've been waiting for you this whole time. And they've been on these spiritual travels with me. So I'm sure they're charged with this awesome energy. And I was like, Dad, like what? Like that's so amazing. So since then, I was like, okay, so that's a sign, that's definitely a sign. So I started practicing using this deck of cards, and you will ask me like, Katarina, where did you find the meanings? Like if you've never had tarot cards before, how did you just start reading them? Well, first of all, I would only do readings for myself at first. And I started looking up meanings of the cards online, but I didn't like it because most of the time it would be like, this means husband, new engagement, a big party, and a lot of food. And I was like that's so trivial, that's so basic, like that can't be the meaning of this entire card. Like there's more drawn on it than these descriptions. Like that's just bogus. So I couldn't really find good like interpretations of the cards online, not the ones that I enjoyed. So I was like, okay, I want to learn, like I want to study this. Now, once again, my dad came to the rescue. He ordered me this book that I studied with for about the first year of learning tarot. It's called The 78 Degrees of Wisdom. I'm gonna link that down below so you can find it on my Amazon store. He also got me a newer version. It's not the same book, it's a different book, but it's the same author. It's called Wisdom of Tarot, I believe, Tarot Wisdom. Looking at it in my bookshelf, but again, I'm gonna link that below if you wanna check that out for yourself. But these two are by the same author. The first one is a little, I think she kind of corrected herself in some way, in some chapters, but here's a little bit of a method strategy for learning. So what I did, and I kid you not, you guys, this was a very tedious process, but because I loved it so much, it felt like the funnest thing that I could do ever. I would do it like every single day, like multiple times a day. I was obsessed. So what I would do is I would do a reading for myself. I didn't really, first I followed like the spreads, and then sometimes I do it intuitively. I'd be like, okay, 3 cards, this one will answer this question, that question. And sometimes I would be like, okay, I'm gonna do 9 cards and just kind of see how it all comes together. So I experimented a lot with the layout. Sometimes I try the ones that I saw in the books that like kind of told you how to position the cards. Sometimes it'd just be completely spontaneous in how I would lay them out. But every time, no matter the spread, I would get that first book, that 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and then the second one when that one was released, and when I got it about a year later. But for about the first 2 years, that's what I did. Or a year and a half, I do a layout, and then I find a chapter on each of the cards that I received in the book, whether in the first or the second version. And I'd read the whole entire chapter every single time. Yes, that means that I've read chapters over and over and over again. Some of these chapters would be very long, and I would read them over and over and over again, especially major arcana cards. Now, if you know a little bit about tarot cards, you know there are 2 arcanas, or there are 2 kind of categories of the cards in the deck. Major arcana and minor arcana. Now, major arcana are, of course, these kind of like major realizations in life, this kind of hero's journey. Minor arcana show more trivial situations. There's also kind of royal arcana. Some people kind of separate that into its own territory. These are court cards like knights and kings and queens and pages. Also depends on the deck, what titles they use, but regardless, that's usually kind of the general breakdown of the types of cards in tarot. For the major arcana cards, this woman had pretty extensive chapters, and that makes a lot of sense because these are very complex. So I would read these chapters, like I said, over and over and over again. No shortcuts, no glancing over. I'd sit down. Every reading would take me about 1 to 3 hours. Yes, sometimes over 3 hours. And I would just do that relentlessly, daily. And meanwhile, I was pretending to run this marketing firm. And of course, it was real because it's an actual business that's registered. I paid taxes, I had some clients, but it was so miserable. Everything that I had to force myself to do it. Every client that I would get through really hard trying because it was just not going for me. I would dread, like as soon as I would get them, I'd be like, oh, I can't believe I'm gonna have to actually do what I just sold. So it was just such an uphill battle all the time. So every spare minute I had not doing the business that I started for myself, I do tarot cards. I'd do tarot readings. So about a year and a half into it, I started doing some tarot card readings for my friends. Now, sometimes I do it even a little earlier if these were like really close friends, but like if it's someone just watching me at a coffee shop shuffle and like do a reading for myself and asks for one, I'd be like a little cautious because I didn't really want to charge them. I didn't really feel like I was ready. And I was just in a strange place. I was like, can I ever charge for this? Is this something that is like a gift from God and I can't monetize it because it would be bad? So I had all these kind of internal conflicts. I never thought it would become a business. I never thought it would replace the business that was not bringing me any joy. But anyway, so that's how I started. That's how I learned the meanings of the cards. Now, there was a transitional point, and I remember it very precisely. I was sitting right here where I'm sitting right now, recording this video, but no backdrop. And I was sitting at this table at my desk, and I was doing another reading, and I was doing a reading for myself, and I will tell you, it was about a year, maybe a little over a year ago. So yes, about a year and a half to 2 years into reading these chapters over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, pretty much every day for hours. You would imagine, memorized a lot of that information. But I wasn't trying to. I was just doing a lot of readings. And every time, interestingly enough, every time I would read that same text, I'd see something new in it. I'd see something that I've never considered before. I'd see another kind of possibility for what the card could mean in the reading. And finally, I wasn't planning on it. I wasn't ready for it. But I was doing a reading for myself one time, and it was about a year and a half to 2 years into me doing this practice. And all of a sudden I get this feeling like I lay the cards out, I reach my hand towards the books that I had sitting on my desk and towards grabbing that tarot book. I went to grab it and I just stopped. I had this inner voice tell me, like not in this strange spooky way, but in a very like direct way where I felt it and I kind of heard it, but it wasn't a voice, it was something within me. And it was like an instruction. It was like, no, don't use the book, you're ready. And I was like, oh my, I was not. Because people have been like telling me at this point, like even my original inspiration, Oretha, she even said, you have all these books all the time, I feel like you've read it so many times. So there were a few other intuitives that were kind of nudging me like, hey, don't you think you kind of know the cards already? And I was like, no, I learned something new from these books all the time. So finally this voice was like, this inner kind of guidance was like, no, you can't use a book anymore. And it said can't. So it wasn't like a maybe, it was like, do not. You can't use the book anymore. You have to now learn intuitively. And I really wanted to grab the book because I was like, I don't remember what these cards mean, but I was like, okay, I don't need to remember. It's gonna come. And it started coming. So that's when my practice really got to expand, I feel like, because I started getting a lot more psychic as soon as I stopped using these books. Now, granted, I've read them so many times already that I pretty much knew a lot of card meanings, but there's 78 cards in tarot, and I do consider reversals. So that's a total of 156 possibilities for each and every card. Now, when they come together, that's also a story. So I was very nervous, but as soon as I started leaving the book behind and never taking it with me, never grabbing it for my own readings, for other people's readings, I started getting a lot more psychic. And what I mean by that is I'd look at the card, I'd remember some of the meanings that I read, and then I'd get this like kind of, wow, this is what it means now. This is what it means for me, or this is what it means for this person. And I'd just start sharing. So it was very intuitive. Even the fact that I stopped using the companions, the books, was an intuitive instruction that I chose to follow, and I'm very glad I did. And then the rest of the practice became very intuitive, where I would just kind of become more psychic and get these meanings directly without having to look at a book, without having to remember everything that I read. And it was very individual to the situation, if I was doing a reading for myself, my own situation, or to someone else. So I started doing a lot more readings, and I was not charging for them. Sometimes maybe I'll say, well, you know, if you want one, you can buy me coffee, or like, I'd be like this, or, you know, you can tip me or something like that. I'd be like very coy about it. I didn't feel comfortable like charging people anything. Plus, I didn't know what I could even charge. So I would do a lot of readings for others and myself, but use more intuition, use more kind of this direct psychic connection. And I started getting really great feedback. I was kind of blown away because people would tell me stuff like I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just read for them, and I wouldn't know like how it applies to their life. I would just know what to say through my understanding of tarot, plus that intuitive guidance that I kind of opened up to. And you know, I'd look up and the person is in tears, or I'd look up and someone's like going like this, oh my god, like, oh my god, how can you know this? And then be like, no, what? Like, I don't even know what I'm talking about here. Or you know, you don't know what I've been like, I needed to hear this so much. And I'd be like, hear what? Like, for what? I just wouldn't know. And then these people would tell me, my friends, some strangers that would approach me at these coffee shops, be like, yeah, like, here's what happened. And the cards would be like on point, or however I explain them, and it would be just amazing. I was just like, you know, how is this real? So the more I did readings, the more I loved it. And at some point I had a business client that paid me for a reading more than he wanted. Like, so he like actually, he asked for a reading. I did a reading that was not within our business agreement, like for marketing and stuff. And he paid me like over $100. So it was a big reading too. It took several hours, but I was not excited. I was like, he's like, what do I pay? What do I owe you? I was like, I don't know. Like, you tell me. And he just brings out and gives me like cash. And I'm like, okay. And we had a little bit of like a campaign planned. And actually our business agreement did not work out. He did not like the products I was offering. He did not like what I was doing, and I didn't really like it either. But he was like, you know, I'm not going to pay you anymore because this is not good. And I was like, sorry. But he loved the reading. So that should have like told me a little bit like, hey, listen, like, maybe your business is not a good idea. Maybe your readings are. But I was closed off to that. It was about maybe about like year ago, maybe a little less. So that should have been a sign, but it was not. And then what happened next was kind of even more interesting. So as things progressed, as I did more readings for me, for others, I still kept like fighting. I would, you know, I have several guides that I work with, several like spiritual teachers, and one of them was like, hey, so what's going on with your business? And I was like, well, you know, I'm not really succeeding. It's not really working out. She's like, well, what do you love doing most? I said, tarot readings. Just came out of me. She's like, well, why don't you do that for a living? You know, people really need that. I'm like, yeah, right. Okay. She's like, well, I'm doing like, that's what I do. She doesn't do tarot readings, but she does spiritual work. She's like, that's what I do. And I was like, yeah, well, you're great. And she's like, you're great too. And I was like, yeah, like who's gonna, like whatever. So I didn't take it seriously. I didn't take myself seriously. I did kind of start sharing some of these things online, but I was very terrified because I live in a pretty conservative town in the South in the United States, and most people here are like kind of strict Christians where they look down on all things intuitive, or at least so I thought. But I started opening up slowly. I started reading, sharing some like card meetings, sharing that I've been studying this, sharing what I think about like readings in general. And I also developed my own approach because I realized that I do not do readings for future because I do not believe in fortune telling. And I realized that a lot of people had bad experiences with fortune telling. Now, a different video subject, I have had premonitions where sometimes even tragic events happen that I saw like to a T, and I could not do anything to stop them, and I saw them before they happened. So do I believe in seeing the future? Yes. Do I believe in fortune telling? No, I think it's unethical. I think that even people that have a gift of seeing the future should not use it that way, because that's not how the life works, and it teaches people the wrong, irresponsible thing. It teaches them to look outside for what their life is going to look like, and it's up to them. Yes, we all have a little bit of destiny. Yes, we all have these paths that we may have chosen before we even came to this planet. Yes, I agree to all these things. However, you are still in charge with the details of how you want your experience to unravel, with the paths that you're going to select within this frame of your work on earth that you've chosen. So I would not want to do anything to take that away from someone, to take away their ability to feel like they have free will, to feel like they are in charge, to feel like they can create the life of their dreams. I do not practice fortune telling, but I realized that's why a lot of people were very weary and suspicious and uncomfortable with tarot, because either they had a personal experience or they heard from someone about this bad, fortune telling appointment that someone had, and how they paid, and they were told that's your future, and they're like, I don't believe it, and then it still happened, or they're like, I believe it, and then it didn't like whatever it is. Like, I heard all these stories, and I'm like, what? Tarot? I don't think tarot, to me, I was like, I realized like my practice is so centered on the present moment, because that's what we have trouble with most of the time. We have trouble understanding what is going on in the present moment. We have trouble seeing it honestly sometimes because we're lying to ourselves, or we're avoiding something, or we're not facing a fear, or we're not facing a trauma or hurt, or we're not seeing the opportunity, we're seeing it negatively. So what people need help with most is the present moment. And I was like, wow, that's my practice. That's what I want to do. That's how I want to use tarot. And I started kind of educating people about that. I was like, well, I do these readings, they're about present moment, and I think that's how it's best used. And so I started sharing that a little bit online, and at first folks were just no comments, no reactions, nothing. So it was just kind of a little bit like, what is she doing? I know a lot of people in my community, I know a lot of leaders, and they were like, isn't she supposed to be doing marketing? Isn't that what she's doing? Why is she talking about tarot cards? Like, what is going on with this person? And so I felt that, and I was like, ugh, I'm gonna be ostracized. And then I was like, okay, no, I'm not, I don't care. So, because some folks were interested, and some like really appreciated me sharing my perspective. So as time progressed, it became a little easier for me to kind of share this journey. So finally, I want to bring you to the final chapter of this long video and tell you about how I started doing this as a full-time, like, that's what I do for a living now. I'm a tarot reader, a spiritual reader, spiritual guide, whatever you want to call it. So here's what happened. 2020 happened, and I've been wanting to I was like, ooh, maybe I can do something with the readings. Maybe I can teach people how to read cards. Maybe I can try recording readings on YouTube. So I had like all these ideas, but they were all like floaty. I would write them down, but never really do anything about them. I was like, I don't know how to get started. Like, what if I can't handle it? What if I can't do remote readings? What if I have to like be face to face with a person? Now that problem got resolved because I'm originally from Russia and some of my closest friends live in Moscow, so they love my reading. So I do reading for one of them, for example, thousands of miles away. But then again, I know her very well, so it was like, could I do this for a stranger? Anyway, I had all these concerns, so I would never take action. I would just write down, like, one day maybe I'll try it. But 2020 happened, March happened. Worldwide crisis happened, and no one needed marketing anymore in my community, or at least not the people that I worked with. And that's when I realized that I've celebrated like 3 years in business and I had no clients, and that happened before. And one of the clients asked for a full refund of whatever their the remaining of their budget was. And I was strapped for cash, but I've been for the past 3 years because this business has been such a struggle. This marketing business, which is never meant to be, it felt like such a burden and such a overcoming all the time. And so all of a sudden I was like, no clients. And then I was like kind of relieved. I was like, is this a bad thing? Because it feels amazing. Like, I don't want to do marketing anymore. And then I had this full blown meltdown where I was like, why have I been doing this for 3 years? Why have I been torturing myself for 3 years doing something I'm not good at, something I don't like, something that's a constant struggle, something that people don't want to buy. When they buy, they don't want to go through it. I don't want to go through it. Like, what's wrong with me? Obviously I wanted to have my own business, but I was in the wrong business. And I had finally realize it just, a few months ago. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. And I appreciate what I've learned about marketing, but I'm not going to be doing marketing for other businesses. That's not my strength. That's not what I'm supposed to do here on this planet. Like, I'm done with this. I suck at this. So I finally kind of admitted to myself that that was not the business I should be in. And I let it go, and I was like, I am either gonna have to find a job, or I'm gonna have to figure something else out. I have no idea, and I was just kind of stressed, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about it. And then all of a sudden, everyone was doing a lot of more live videos, and I was like, let me start reading tarot cards live one day. And I was just like, wait, where did this idea come from? And I was like, you know what? It's you know what? It's worldwide crisis. Everyone's freaked out. No one's gonna judge me. No one's gonna care. If anything, people might actually be a little more interested in it than they usually would. So I started doing Facebook Lives, and I have a pretty big audience on Facebook, mostly local people. But I did it 1 week, I did it next week, I did it another week. Then I started doing it twice a week, and people were loving it. I've never had this much. And been doing live videos before about marketing or local events, and it was always kind of everyone was like, okay, here she goes again live. But with the tarot readings, I had so much engagement all of a sudden. I had so many people show up. I had so many comments, so many card requests. I was running out of time. I would be there for 2 hours straight reading people's cards. People would send me tips. They'd send me donations. They'd leave me reviews. And they all just started a few months ago. So right around the world crisis that is kind of, I guess, still happening. So like I said, I started doing it once a week, then I started doing it twice a week. Then I was like, okay, I should offer some readings. Someone asked me, hey, can I get a full reading for myself? I said, let me think. What kind of options would I offer? So I came up with a few options, sent them. They were like, I'll take the most expensive one. I was like, okay, great. So I made all of my prices reasonable. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play with this, see where this goes. And next thing you know, I am booked every week. People are finding me, I don't even know from where. Sometimes I'll get a random message like, hey, I just sent you money for a reading. How soon can you do it? And I was just like, it just started. I've never had that with marketing. I had to try so hard to get one client. And here people are coming from all over the world, from other countries. And I don't even know how they find me. They're like, can I have a reading? I've never had that happen with anything else. So I had this, I started getting a lot of kind of intuitive messages like, here's, try this. Here, put your video there. Here, join this group. Here, tell these people that you read cards. And it's kind of all intuitive. It's all these nudges. And I'd be like, okay, type, okay, type, okay. And over the past month, I've calculated that yesterday I've done over 36 readings, maybe 37. That's a lot of readings. These are all like full paid for readings. Now, I did hundreds of readings on my live videos where I just kind of like do one card readings for whoever requests a card. It happens live. I've had comments from people that blew my mind. I've never met them. First time seeing them, reading a random card for them on a live, and then they tell me what that meant to them and how deeply they were touched by that. I had a person buy a reading from me recently, and they bought the most extensive one with the most cards, so it gets pretty detailed. Now, they didn't even give me their name. They didn't even give me their, like, nothing, no Facebook, no picture, no, not even who is this person? I have no idea. They're like, reading sent to this email. And so I did this reading and I sent it to this email, and then the person, like, with the name and everything responds, and they're like, this is so accurate, it's scary. And like, then there goes like 5 page letter describing this insane life situation. And I'm remembering what cards I had for them, like, how is this possible? Because I don't really know what I'm talking about, I'm just interpreting, but it's been insane, it's been amazing. I've been able to feel like I'm finally actually doing something meaningful. I'm doing something significant. I'm helping someone. I'm helping people. I'm connecting them to their own intuition in a way, because they feel validated, they feel heard, and their faith, maybe it's not a specific faith, maybe they're not religious, maybe they don't have a spiritual practice even, but their faith gets strengthened because they see this confirmation that their innermost happenings are somehow visible to another person. Even if that person does not understand what they're talking about, it still shows up. So it confirms to them that there's something more than just them feeling lonely in this world. So it's been the most impactful thing in my life. I'm so humbled. I'm getting a lot of visions for how far this practice can grow. But what's most liberating to me, strangely, is that I can't take credit for it. These messages don't come from me. Yes, I can take credit for studying all these books. Yes, I can take credit for doing hundreds of readings. Yes, I can take credit for showing up for the lives, for recording the readings that get purchased, for uploading them, for answering all the questions, for doing additional card pulls if needed, for doing it on time. Yes, I can take credit for this, but I can't take credit for the actual messages. They don't come from me. They come from somewhere else. Where? I don't know. To me, what I focus on is the highest good for all. That's my intention. And to help the person that needs help. That's also my intention. And to connect to God, universal intelligence. I'm not working with any specific demons or angels or like any specific entities when I do readings. For my own practice, yes, I'll channel, I'll do other things, again, different topics. But when I'm doing readings for someone, I'm just asking God. I'm asking, if you don't believe in God, I'm asking the universal intelligence, the creative force that creates everything that is. Show me how I can assist this person. Help me say the right words. Guide me towards the right interpretation that will help them, that will connect them to their own intuitive wisdom, to their own divine guidance that is available to all of us. So that's where I kind of focus my attention when I start a reading, and they're all based in the present moment, but I can't take credit for the actual messages. And it's so liberating because it tells me I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to come up with anything. I don't have to try to make sense. I can just show up and be present, and yes, put myself in the receptive mode. Yes, meditate. Yes, maybe do some yoga to kind of be more kind of in my body and not distracted by the needs of the body. Yes, I can use better equipment. Yes, I can upgrade the cards. Yes, I can do all these things, but I don't have to come up with anything. Like, it comes through me, not from me. So it's the most liberating thing. I've never felt that in any other direction. So It's been the most amazing professional transformation that I could not even anticipate or expect. And I'm beyond grateful, and I'm so grateful to have this practice now and to not be in a business that was not bringing me any joy ever. And I'm so grateful that I was brave enough to surrender that without even knowing where I would go, and to receive this gift of serving people on this new level. So if you are just starting with your spiritual practice, be it reading tarot cards or something else, whatever it is, and you're not sure where it's going, and you don't like where you are or what you're doing, but all you do in your free time is you practice and practice and practice, and you have no plans, might just one day become something. Don't put pressure on it, don't freak yourself out, but you never know where it's going to take you. And if you have this inclination to keep studying, to keep practicing, to keep doing it every single day, every spare minute you have, and people don't get you, they're like, what are you doing? You're crazy. That's not even, that's not even what we like here. You're insane. Just shut them out, close the door, and keep doing it. Even if they're like, oh my gosh, you've spent 5 hours doing this. Yes, you don't have any idea how it might pay off. Now, I've been in business for 3 years. I started practicing tarot cards right around that same time. So although my business failed, and never really failed from the get-go, pretty much, I just kept beating the dead horse for a long time. I needed that time to develop my practice. I needed that time to learn tarot. I needed that time to connect to my own intuition and my psychic abilities. I needed that time to gain the confidence that I actually have this ability to help others. And if it wasn't for the 3 years, I wouldn't be ready to have this practice now. So this business in disguise was an opportunity for me to learn. Little did I know that all these hours spent on tarot were actually preparing me for the career of my life, because I'm pretty sure I'll be doing this forever. So, but you never know. Regardless, I'm very grateful for the frustrating time of being in business for myself, doing something that didn't bring me any joy, because something did bring me joy, tarot cards, and I practiced them and practiced them and practiced them. And now I am where I am, and I'm ready to do this professionally. But if it wasn't for that business, I wouldn't have had that opportunity, and I wouldn't be where I am now. So everything happens for a reason. Don't be too quick to judge the circumstances of the now, because hindsight 2020, you're gonna see it differently one day. And you don't know just how valuable something you're doing now, even if it's not enjoyable, would be to your future self. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you have any questions, if you want to share your own journey, drop the comments below. I always respond to all of my comments. If you want to support me, like this video, share it with your friends, especially if you have a friend who's kind of playing with a little bit of a spiritual direction themselves, and maybe they're not so confident, maybe they're doubting themselves, and maybe they're like, what is this ever gonna be? Send them this video. Maybe they'll get some encouragement out of it. I would hope so. And if you don't want to miss out on the videos that I publish on my channel, don't forget that jingle that bell to get notified every time I upload a new video. Now, on this note, thank you so very much again for watching. I appreciate you. I appreciate you spending this time with me and learning about my story. If you would like to check out my readings, you can check out my Facebook Lives that happen every week, Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. EST or 8:30 p.m. EST sometimes. Link will be below. If you want to order a private reading from me, you can. My rates are extremely affordable, and I make sure that everyone can get a reading if they really need it. So you can also check that out in the description below and on the instructions how to book one. Finally, if you are starting your own tarot practice, or you're learning about the cards and you're interested in checking out the books that I was using that helped me get started, you can find those in my Amazon store, also linked down below. Now, but if you have questions about the practice, if you're already on the path and just have a question or two or something, just drop a comment. I'll happily tell you everything I know. Seriously, I don't have any secrets. Everyone has their own practice. If you start a tarot practice, that's not gonna away from mine. It's never gonna take away from mine, because I think everyone has a purpose, and if you're in your purpose, you can't possibly interfere with anyone else's purpose. So there is no competition, there is no zero-sum game. I don't think like that, at least. So if you have questions and you're doing your own practice, you're learning, you're building, you want to go farther, you're like, oh, how do I get my first client or something like that, drop a comment. I'll tell you. At least I'll tell you what I know. So, or how do I set a price? Drop a comment. I'll tell you what I know. Okay, on this note, also if you want to learn more like specific things, like an idea for a video about tarot cards, spiritual practice, turning it into a business, how to do all of these, how to feel ethical about it, like where's the line, or something like that, just also drop a comment, because I'm looking for kind of video suggestions in this department, because this is something I'm very passionate about, and I'd love to create more content to help you guys follow your own path and feel more informed and feel more supported and feel like there's someone else out there also trying, feel not alone. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Love you more than the words can explain, and I will see you in the next video, and until then, take care. Bye.